everyone, so welcome to this week's Plan With Me video. Sorry about last week's video. It was another one of those just kind of like sped up ones, but if you can't tell, I am still a little bit sick, but I had lost my voice like pretty much completely last week. So yeah, so this week we will get started on the Plan With Me. So for this week's Plan With Me, the style of it is a little bit different than what I typically do, but the format's the same. And I was super excited to do this because on the 13th, the series of Unfortunate Events Netflix series comes out, and I am such a huge fan of the series of Unfortunate Events, so I thought I would do a spread kind of inspired by that. So yeah, the colors are a lot darker and definitely different than what I typically do, especially compared to like last week, but I don't know, that's what I like about my plans. They're always like a little bit different than the week before, so yeah, I think that this will be a really fun spread to do. So I actually ended up designing a lot of this months and months ago, whenever I think they were originally going to release it at one point, but they had to like delay it or something. So I have been patiently waiting for quite a while for the series of Unfortunate Events to come out. I was a huge fan of the book series when I was little. I think that was like honestly one of the first like book series that like really got me into reading. I know a lot of people really like Harry Potter and stuff like that. I honestly was just never really a fan of Harry Potter. I never got into it. I've never read the books. I've barely seen any of the movies. I couldn't tell you anything about Harry Potter, but the series of Unfortunate Events was just, it was my Harry Potter for me. It was one of my favorite childhood memories. It's actually kind of funny because I really honestly loved the book series when I was a kid, but for some reason I never finished reading them as a kid. I stopped at I think about the 10th book or so, and I have no idea why, but I just stopped reading. Because I remember the books were still being written whenever I was reading them. And I loved the movie when it came out. It was very different from the books, but I did like it. I know that originally a lot of people didn't like the idea of having like the first 3 books crammed into one movie, and I definitely kind of agree with that. I ideally would have loved if they had done, you know, a movie per book, but I still really enjoyed the story that they kind of like did for the movie. It was a little bit different, a little few things were changed, but overall I loved it, and I loved the cast. They did such a good job in the original casting, and Jim Carrey as Count Olaf was like, I don't know, I don't feel like anyone could have done a better job than him, and Neil Patrick Harris is the new Count Olaf, so hopefully he does good. So apparently I wasn't recording for a few seconds, but what I was saying was that I kind of created each day to look a bit like the book covers. So this one is The Bad Beginning, The Reptile Room, The Wide Window, and so on and so forth. And then I created some decorative stickers that I will put on each of the little like full boxes here, and it'll kind of like, I don't know, it'll be cute. I'll show you in a minute. So next one is The Wide Window. And those 3 were in the first movie, Bad Beginning, Reptile Room, Wide Window. And like I mentioned, I know a lot of people actually didn't like the movie, but I loved it. I thought the casting was great. And I don't know, Emily Browning was like one of my favorite actresses ever, so I was like really biased, but I thought that they did such a good job with the movie, and I wish that they could have like done all the movies or all the books as movies with that cast and stuff, because to me they were just like the perfect cast for, you know, the Baudelaire orphans. So the series of Unfortunate Events definitely has a very special spot in my heart. Like I mentioned, I did try to read the whole series whenever I was younger, when they were first coming out. It was the first book series that honestly got me into reading. I know a lot of people, especially my age, Harry Potter was kind of like that for them, but to be honest, like I was never really into Harry Potter very much. Just the series of Unfortunate Events was really special to me, and I was really sad that I never read them all the way through as a child. Like I said, I kind of got to about the 10th book, and then for some reason it just kind of fizzled out for me. But whenever I heard, probably 3 years ago, they had announced that they were going to be doing a reboot of the series of Unfortunate Events for Netflix, and as soon as I heard that, it like sparked something in my brain. And I used to be like a really avid reader, and I would always buy my own books instead of going to the library, which was a total waste of money, like now that I look back on it. But I'd always buy books instead of renting them, which I should have done. Like, I would have saved a lot of money if I had just like checked out books at the library. But so I would have a big book collection, and you know, every couple years or so I would go through and I would get rid of the books that I didn't want anymore, either books that I knew I wasn't going to read or had already read, or books that didn't have any sentimental value to me, and I would always donate those. But no matter how many times I'd go through my books in my library, I could never get rid of the series of Unfortunate Events. It was always just a series that I thought I could never part with these books, and I'm really glad that I never got rid of them, because whenever they had mentioned they were going to be doing a reboot of the series of Unfortunate Events, I was so unbelievably excited, and I actually went and as an adult I reread the entire book series, and I finished it for the first time in my life. So I'd kind of like, you know, reread them for the second time, you know, the first few books that I did read, and then I finally finished it, and I don't know, it was such an amazing book series for me. I know a lot of people might, I don't know, think it wasn't that great, but for me it really does have like a super special place in my heart. And I don't know, it was just kind of like my childhood, and I loved that I was able to go back, and the stories, even reading them as an adult now, it was just like the stories still held up. The themes were so like, I don't know, deeper as an adult. It's just one of those, you know, children's series that I think is more than just like a children's series. It was just something that I really loved, and I would recommend to anyone to read, even if you're an adult. You know, like I said, I reread them as an adult, and I thought that they were just great. Very kind of dark themes to them, but very, I don't know, very age appropriate for children. You know, there's some like references that I never got as a child that I kind of got as I was older. You know, there's a lot of like classic literature references. I don't know, it's just one of those series that I think everyone should read, and it was just really special to me. So I was super excited when they were going to do the reboot, and yeah, so I am so excited to watch that on Friday. I'm probably gonna binge watch it. I have really high expectations, so I really hope I'm not let down. But yeah, so that's pretty much all I had to talk about. And one other thing I wanted to mention, so since I never finished the books when I was a kid, and you know, it's been about a year or two, probably 2 years, since I actually went and reread the whole series, but I remembered like when I finally finished the books, just how felt this like really overwhelming kind of like, I don't know, sadness, and like this part of my life was gone now, which is kind of a really like dramatic and serious thing to say, but like when you've finished a really good book, or like a really good book series that like has been with you for years, it's just kind of like, it's a really bittersweet moment. I was glad that I had finally, you know, seen the whole story and read the whole story, but yeah, it was a journey. Okay, so I went through and I added some of the decorative stickers, and I kind of did like each day is based off of the different books through the series. So the first one has a little marriage certificate in it, and of course the little book here. And then the quote here says, "Your initial opinion on just about anything may change over time." Then for the second day here, this is from the reptile room, so I did the brass reading lamp, as well as a slice of coconut cake. And the quote on this one is, "Never under any circumstances let the Virginian wolf snake near a typewriter." Then next for Wednesday, this is the wide window. So this one I have a bowl of cold cucumber soup, and the quote on this one is, "Grammar is the greatest joy in life, don't you find?" Then next for Thursday, this one is the fourth book in the series. This one was called The Miserable Mill, which was one of my, I have to say, one of my least favorite books. But the quote of this one is, "This knowledge sits in my heart heavy as a paperweight." And this one has the broken glasses. Klaus had broken his glasses in this book. And then the fifth one here is on Friday. This one is, I think, the Dare Academy, and this one they went to the boarding school. This one, I really like this book. This was also the one where you first meet the twins, well actually the triplets, and the quote on this one is, "Everybody will die, but very few people want to be reminded of that fact." And I just loved how like grim and like, I don't know, dark the story was. Like, even being a children's book and stuff, or like a children's series, it was still very dark, but it was such a good series. I loved it so much. Next is the 6th book. This was another favorite of mine. This one was The Ersatz Elevator, and I have an aqueous martini here, which is just water with an olive in it. I always loved that. I thought it was such a funny kind of play. And the quote on this one is, "If we wait until we're ready, we will be waiting for the rest of our lives." And then finally for the 7th book, this one is The Vile Village. This is another one that I kind of thought was like a little bit boring, but I don't know, still, it was definitely a good book, but it was just, I'd have to say that The Miserable Mill and The Vile Village, those were like kind of like, I don't know, some of the little more boring ones to me. But so this one has like the little blue blazer that Count Olaf uses in his disguise, and then the quote on this one is, "It was curious that something could be so close and so distant at the same time." And then since I did quotes for each of the days, I decided that instead of doing a quote box, I would just do one of the illustrations, and this is just kind of like a pseudo family portrait of Count Olaf with the orphans and his theater troupe. And this one is supposed to kind of be like the I think it was the wedding scene of The Bad Beginning. I must say that definitely when I finished the books, I still had so many questions that were unanswered, so many things that I wanted to know, and I don't know, when I first finished it, I felt a little underwhelmed, I guess, from the way the series ends, which I don't want to ruin that because it's just such a good series. I want everyone to like experience it for themselves. But I remember when I first finished it, I felt very empty, and I was like, no, this can't be the end. This isn't the way I want it to end. There's so many more questions I have. But looking back, you know, even a few years now that I've finished reading them, I don't know. I think it was a good ending, and I think it was a very appropriate ending. So that's just me blabbing on and on about the series of unfortunate events. For some people, it was probably just, you know, it was just like a kid's book story. But for me, it was really a little bit more than that. It was something I definitely really remember from my childhood, and something that will always kind of have a special place in my heart. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram. Link is below. And until my next video, I will talk to you guys later. Bye.